I'm glad you're here. We are going to be talking today with Dan Du Bois and John Beebe about finding the right fit for retirement benefits. Oregon Bio has partnered with Retirement DNA to provide you with insightful information about the state-mandated Oregon Saves program and Washington State's mandated retirement marketplace program. With mandatory participation requirements, it's important to know what the program is and what options you have to help comply with the state mandates. So with that, I'm going to introduce our speakers and then our program sponsors, and then hand it over. So our speakers, Dan Du Bois is the Managing Director of Retirement DNA. He has 25 years in working within the financial industry and specializes in design assistance, customization, and implementation support of investment and retirement programs for members of professional and trade associations. In addition to his core duties as a retirement plan advisor, Dan spearheads RBG's Affinity and Association Group Marketing and Service Platform for the retirement plans. John Beebe is a retirement consultant for Retirement Benefits Group, one of the country's leading retirement plan consulting firms. John's goal is to collaboratively craft unique retirement plan solutions for small businesses and corporations. We wouldn't be able to bring you programming like this without our program sponsors. So I would love for you to get to know CAI, Nikon, Skanska, Summit Development Group, and VWR. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Dan Du Bois, and I believe he has the screen.
Great. Can everybody see my slides? You see the slides okay, Michelle? Okay, excellent. Thank you. Appreciate the introductions and certainly the opportunity to spend a little time with all of you here this morning. As Michelle outlined, our goal for today is just to provide you some additional information about some of the programs that are available to you to assist your employees with retirement and really to get a better understanding of what actually your obligation is under some of these programs, including the Oregon Saves program. Certainly, we welcome any questions. Michelle, maybe we'll look to you to sort of moderate as questions come in. Introductions have been made. John's going to tackle a lot of the issues around the Oregon Saves program. I have been with Retirement Benefits Group for over 10 years now. I'm based down in Southern California, which is where we're headquartered. John is one of my associates, but he's up in your neck of the woods. So, hopefully, if there are follow-up questions, we can certainly address those and provide personalized consultations, and we would encourage that you look out or reach out to us. So just a little bit more on our firm. This is what we do as an organization. We focus on retirement plans. We work with companies of all sizes, from startups to large public companies. In total, about 650 different companies turn to Retirement Benefits Group for assistance in establishing and managing their retirement plan. We've had a long relationship within your industry. For over 10 years now, we have been the resource available to California biotech companies through Biocom, where these are the services that we bring to the table. So we've got a lot of experience working within the life sciences industry. I think we understand some of the unique aspects of your industry, particularly as it relates to some of the challenges of recruiting the very talented, very skilled workforce that you need to attract to move forward with all of your objectives as an organization. I think essentially you can boil down our services into a couple different silos. Everything related to the retirement plan, whether it's a 401k, a simple IRA, and then for some companies, there's a desire to do something in particular for some of the key executives. So we do have a fair amount of expertise in executive benefit plans, but the other core thing that we've really focused on in building our organization is trying to deliver a comprehensive suite of services for the employees of our clients that extends far beyond just going in and providing the basic education on how the different investment options work in the retirement plans. I think we can talk a little bit more about that as we move on. Organization's been recognized as one of the leaders in the country. And so just kind of diving in what we hope to cover today, my goal is to provide a little bit of a backdrop of the core subject matter today. And then, as I said, John's going to jump in and talk a little bit more about the particulars of this Oregon Saves program, comparing how that program works versus maybe some of the alternatives that you might want to consider, and then, of course, address any questions that you might have. So, diving right in as far as where we are right now overall in this whole topic of retirement plans as an employee benefits. So, in particular, if you roll the clock back about 6 months, I mean, prior to the coronavirus hitting the world, if you were to look at the overall unemployment rate in the United States, it was at historical lows. So that really did present challenges for a lot of industries in terms of attracting some of the extremely skilled folks that you need to hit on all of your objectives. And employee benefits in general, they do play a pretty significant role in helping to really hit these three core goals of recruiting, rewarding, and then also retaining the important employees that you've invested time in training. There's a very, very comprehensive survey that's done each year by MetLife. And what MetLife does is they go out and they survey both companies and employees around this whole topic of different employee benefits. And one of the things that they've tracked over the years is how different benefit programs are perceived by employees. And is that really a draw for wanting to join the organization? And over the years, the importance of different employee benefits have changed a little bit. Naturally, health insurance is something that is front and center, I think, to anybody when they're looking to join an organization. And in fact, we now have laws in the United States. Who knows what's going to happen in the future with, and I'm trying not to get political here, but the Affordable Care Act, whether or not the current makeup of the Affordable Care Act will be retained through the next iteration of whatever we see back in Washington, D.C., not only in terms of our legislators, but potentially also the change in the potential change of the structure of the Supreme Court. Again, I'm not trying to get political here, but employees, recruits, they're certainly looking to you to provide a well-rounded benefits program. Specific to this topic that we're focusing on here in terms of retirement planning, one of the questions that MetLife has been asking over the last number of years is, here you can see some of the different things, and they're asking both employers, which is the blue line, and the red line is employers, the blue line is employees. And the question was, how important is it to you as far as your loyalty to a particular organization, some of these different benefits? And of course, as you would expect, your base compensation, your salary, that certainly is the most important thing as perceived by both employers and employees. Health benefits, that's second. retirement benefits, you can see that, you know, it really is a very important benefit. And this is part of the reason now that we're seeing states starting to mandate that you as an employer provide some type of a retirement planning option at the work site. Another question that came out of the most recent MetLife survey was, you know, how many employees feel that they're actually on track to meet their financial goals, or that they feel that they're in control of their finances. And, you know, only 62% of those surveyed here, you know, felt that they were in control of their finances, and even less than that felt that they were on track to achieving their long-term goals. You know, it's often said that in the United States, we spend more time planning our summer vacation than we do planning how we're going to afford and live out 30 years into retirement, since we're all living longer. So, you know, interesting trends right now as far as this data that's coming in through this survey. And there's a great website that MetLife maintains related to this survey. So if you wanted to dive deeper into some of this data, just Google MetLife annual survey of retirement of employee benefits, and you'll be able to get access to the full report. Another thing, of course, that is the aim of most folks in the HR department is to, you know, overall, when you think about employee culture and wellness programs, you know, to the extent that we can provide some type of an outlet to de-stress, certainly financially, you know, what that employee is facing when they come into the work site, because a more stressed out employee certainly is going to be a less productive employee. So there's a lot of data out there that supports, you know, how financial stress can migrate into other challenges, including health challenges for that stressed out employee. Okay. So, you know, on this whole idea of retirement plans through the work site, just to provide a little more perspective on, you know, how retirement planning works in the United States. This is some data according to the Department of the Treasury. You know, any American family with over $20,000 in annual income, which $20,000 in annual income is certainly not really even subsistence wages, but you can see here that retirement income today, about 39% of what Americans live off of is derived from Social Security. And there's a lot of discussions around, well, is Social Security even going to be there when retirees get, when perhaps the baby boomers get ready to retire? I believe Social Security will always be there. Perhaps we might have to wait an extra year or two before we qualify for it. But almost 40% of retirement income comes from Social Security. The balance is really made up from, you know, folks that are actually needing to maintain a part-time job throughout what would traditionally be those retirement years. Other assets and your qualified retirement plans, like your 401k plan, that really needs to make up the day. And if you look at some other data, Fidelity is the largest 401k provider in the United States, and they've got almost 40 million Americans that take part of the Fidelity 401k plans. So they've got a lot of data. And a couple of years ago, they did an analysis that said that if your basic goal in terms of retirement income is that you'd like to be able to replace 80% of the income that you were earning before you retired. So that's basically your goal for retirement, is you just want to maintain your lifestyle. So if that goal is 80% replacement between what Social Security kicks in and what your personal savings need to be, if you start saving in your mid-20s, you ought to be saving, in order to hit that goal, about 10.1% of your income per year. And what this slide shows us here is, certainly as a country, we are well below that as an average. I need to update this slide, but you know, the most recent data we're showing here is 2016, the average savings rate in the United States was only 5.1%. So, you know, we're not doing a good enough job. And as a result of all of these factors, this is why that we're now seeing states starting to jump in, much the same way that we saw initially with the Affordable Care Act. We're now starting to see that same methodology as it relates to retirement plans as a way for Americans to save at the worksite. So no longer is it optional for a company to offer a retirement plan. It's now becoming a mandate. And Oregon was one of the first states to step up and say, hey, we know this is important. And as a result, what came out of this all of this data and where we are as a country is that, again, only 1 in 3 Americans have less than 5,000 in retirement savings. 1 in 5 have no retirement savings at all. And 35% of private sector workers, they do not have access to a retirement plan. So again, all of this is what was the backdrop for this, one of the programs that we want to ensure that you're all aware of how this program works. It does provide a nice opportunity. It's an option. However, we certainly believe that there are better options available to you as employers as far as providing a tool for your employees to save at the work site. So as we move this discussion into what are the specifics of the Oregon Saves program, John, since this is your backyard here, maybe you can kind of take over and walk through some of the details around Oregon Saves, and also what are some of the options available.
Yeah, sure, Dan. I hope you guys can hear me okay. Dan, I'll still let you drive since we're on our virtual vacation headed to Jackson Hole, which is rad. Yeah, so one of the most important things I think that for people to understand is that, and Dan and I had this great conversation yesterday about it, like the intent of Oregon Saves is great. It's awesome. I mean, some of the statistics that Dan just pointed out about people not saving for retirement, people not taking it seriously, the challenge of a spender's generation versus a saver's generation. Gosh, it's like, groups, legislators had to take action, and they did, which was great, which was awesome. The big challenge about the way Oregon Saves got constructed is that it's not about the idea of saving, it's the execution of saving. And I think that's really important to think about, right? So yeah, like Dan's saying right now, goal to reduce the retirement gap, 200 different companies basically volunteered to beta test Oregon Saves. And these were companies with 50 or more employees. And this was before Oregon Saves actually rolled out as a mandate in the law. And so they did that, they volunteered to do that. And it got enough traction and it became mandate in 2016. It has not been communicated well to different sized businesses. I work with quite a few small businesses, and a lot of them don't know if they have 5 or more employees that if they don't have a 401k or a simple IRA, they're technically in violation of the Oregon Saves mandate. I would say 80% of the companies I talk to don't even know. They didn't even know that this was like a mandated thing. They just thought it was this rolled out program, and they didn't realize, and so they were in violation by accident. Well, I would encourage you guys as the biotech, association to really reach out to your members to make sure that they don't get dinged for something that they didn't know about. I mean, and that's the challenge thing, So, Dan, if you lead to the next slide. So, yeah, 5 or more right now, which is a pretty low threshold. You really definitely it's easy to have 5 employees, 5 W-2 employees, even if they're not full-time. And I think one of the things that happened with Oregon Saves that really affected a lot of industries, and Dan, maybe you can speak to this more than I can, but is talent that might work at a biotech corp on a W-2 basis, but also might contract with someone else on a W-2 basis. I work a lot in the creative industries. I work a lot in software and development and tech, and you know, you'll have really high skilled talent that have maybe multiple positions, you know, at different companies. Well, every time that they get paid, they're getting dinged 5% from Oregon Saves on all of their paychecks without any advantage to the employer, without any advantage to them in some ways, because it is just in a Roth IRA. Automatic enrollment, it's an opt-out program. It's literally one extra sheet that when you fill out your W-2 paperwork that people might not even look at. So all new hires might not even look at that page. They might just automatically fill it out, and that's what it is. 5% default contribution rate, that's coming out pre-tax. So in a time where people are pinched, whether you like it or not, you got 5% coming out. Very limited options, unfortunately. State Street's running the entire program. There are target dates that people get defaulted into, and I don't know if everybody's kind of familiar with target dates, but it's sort of like the idea when you would like to retire, you know, and it puts you into a portfolio, and then there's basically a, you know, a money market fund and a core fund. I mean, it's pretty tight. It's very difficult to get money out. The fees for non-compliance. Now, this is a weird thing because we haven't seen a systemic, basically issuing of fees, but they're catching up to it, right? So they're starting to kind of scale down. Bigger companies tend to have qualified retirement plans in them, or they at least offer something like Dan was saying, you know, you want to attract and retain really good talent. So they're not feeling it, but it's these smaller companies, these smaller corporations that are starting to get dinged, and they didn't even know that they weren't in compliance. And frankly, the website's not very user friendly. So yeah, so let's just go there. So yeah, so you can go on the website. I was on there this morning, and it's a little buggy, but you can enroll, you can opt out, which is great on the website. They finally updated an opt out, and the only requirement of opting out is the intention of a qualified retirement plan. If you intend to put a qualified retirement plan into your company, you can opt out on the website. So it buys you some runway to sit down, talk with Dan, talk with me, chat about what are your options, you know, outside of Oregon Saves. So, and it's yeah, auto roll, new employees, just contributions each year for auto increase. It basically runs itself. What I will say, and what Dan and I were talking about yesterday on the phone, is that, Dan, maybe you could take over about your DMV. That was, I started laughing out loud, dude. Like, that was insane.
Yeah, I think you know, some of the observation, look, again, what we really want to applaud the state on is the intent here. And the intent is to try to provide a solution, and a low-cost solution, that all employers will be able to offer all employees some option to save above and beyond what's automatically pulled out of their paycheck. Now, in practice, and I think what John's referring to is, you know, I think a pretty good analogy here is that, you know, last time that you walked out of the DMV, you know, was that experience such that when you walked out, you said, boy, I wish that organization was in charge of my retirement plan? Yeah, I don't know if that's a perfect analogy, but you know, the reality is the rules have changed so much, even in the short period of time that they rolled this out. And similar again to the Affordable Care Act, what we saw the website crashing the first day that the Affordable Care national website went live. So the program as a whole, as well-intentioned as it is, it does put a fair amount of administrative burden on you, on your team, in terms of complying if this is that you want to go. But I think the big takeaway here is, as long as you as an organization have provided an alternative, then you would be in compliance. So what are some of the different alternatives that you might have available other than the Oregon Saves program? I'll kick it back to you, John.
Oh, no, yeah, I mean, we can kind of like do it together, but yeah, there are a ton of alternatives, obviously. I live in Southeast Portland. I'm an Oregon native. I grew up in Salem. I've been here forever. One of my favorite things about Oregon is that the companies that I work with really, truly care about their employees. Like they almost to a fault, they put themselves forward. And I would say that I have client conversations every week about how can I take care of my people. And so I think a lot of people really embrace this idea, especially in the Northwest, in the Pacific Northwest. So there's a lot of options. There's IRAs, however you want to do it. A lot of the smaller companies do great with a simple IRA. Dan, and you can maybe speak to this better than I can, but a SEP IRA gets a little tricky if you've got a lot of W-2s, because you have to have a pretty hefty contribution to them. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So there's a required company contribution. So in the case of the Oregon Saves program, there's no requirement that the company contribute on behalf of the employee. In fact, there's no outlet through the Oregon Saves program. There's no option for the employer to do a match or anything along those lines. It's simply employee only funded through those criteria that we just ran through: automatic enrollment, 5% level. So with the whole other alphabet soup of retirement plans that are available, there's a fair amount of complexity that you have to understand between these different plans. And what's the right plan for your organization? We can't globally say. It really depends on what your objectives are. Are you looking to match? Are you looking to help out the employees? Or you simply want to make a plan available? And a lot of this really is driven from the basic benefit to all of us to utilizing some of these tools to save for retirement that at the end of the day are very, very tax advantaged. And that's the focus. And there are differences between a SEP and a simple plan, and the Oregon Saves plan, and a traditional versus a Roth. So understanding the differences, I think that's too broad of a conversation for this particular workshop, but certainly something that we'd be happy to provide some specific detail as far as your organization. But just understand that in order to be in compliance with Oregon Saves, is you just have to offer one of these other type of retirement plans through the Worksite, whether it's an IRA structure, whether it's a defined contribution plan like a 401k, or whether it's a more traditional defined benefit plan, where the requirement is really shifted entirely to the employer as far as determining what the future might be. Again, IRAs can take a few different forms, whether they're simple or SEP. But this is, I think, one of the main considerations. I mean, most Americans, the way we save for retirement now is through the 401k program. So just a quick comparison of how would Oregon Saves as an option look versus your alternative for adopting a 401k. Well, as far as the contribution limits, the maximum that an employee could put into the Oregon Saves program would be $6,000. In terms of the 401k, considerably higher contribution limits, $19,500 or an extra $6,500 if you happen to be age 50 or older. You can escalate either one of the programs each year. So if somebody starts at, say, 5%, next year we're going to move them to 6, then 7, then 8, and so on down the line. I just spoke to this in terms of is the company allowed to help the employee save? As it relates to the Oregon Saves program, the answer is no. It's entirely funded by the participant or by the employee. From a tax perspective, the contributions that go into the Oregon Saves program all go in from the employee's paycheck on a post-tax basis. So think of that as, you may be familiar with a Roth type of a savings option, a Roth IRA, or inside the 401k. It's up to the employee. Do I want to make my contributions pre-tax, or I'll pay the tax today and then no tax down the road when the money comes out? And considerably more in terms of the catch-up contributions as well. So just trying to distinguish a little bit between, should you go utilize the Oregon Saves program versus the 401k. Now, again, one benefit of the Oregon Saves is from a overall, the cost of implementing a plan. There's a little more of a expense once you get a 401k started than the annual expenses in the Oregon Saves program. However, the government also does provide some very nice tax breaks for companies that are starting out a plan. So over 3 years, there's a nice tax deduction that the organization would get if you don't have a 401k right now and you start one. Okay. So
can I jump in? Can I back on that, Dan?
Yeah.
Just real quick. So a lot of the companies that I've been talking to over the last 12 to 18 months, what's happened is that because Oregon Saves is an opt-out only plan, not an opt-in plan, we've found a lot of employees being a little bit disgruntled about being opted into this plan and wanting the ability to be able to control it. So we don't have enough data because we're just in 2020 and the way it's rolling out, but the percentages of people having to opt out of the opt-in Oregon Saves plan versus being able to opt into a qualified retirement plan are becoming inverse. Like they're becoming very, very high. And so a lot of the calls that I get are like, hey, I did this Oregon Saves thing. My employees don't like it. They want a different alternative. What can you help me out with? So I'm seeing a lot of that even during this time that we're in. So.
Yeah. So, Michelle, why don't we pause here and, if I can ask for you to sort of monitor the chat board or even open up the phone lines to any questions that we might want to hit on before we move on.
That would be great. So I haven't seen so many questions in the chat box, but anyone who's on the line, if you want to unmute yourself, activate your camera, and maybe just take a swing at what your company is currently doing and how it relates to this. There may be some good discussion points for that. So I know with Oregon Bio, we are in the process of setting up our retirement account, and Lisa has taken the reins on that. So here's a good question. Out of the different companies that you talk to, how many of them, like even especially the smaller companies, how many of them offer retirement accounts?
John, you want to take that up in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like I was saying earlier, I think that a lot of well, let me back up. I think that what's happened in this sort of crazy time that we're in is the companies that are sustainable and growing and strong are realizing that they really need to offer the same suite of benefits as like a Google, if that makes sense. And that to get talent, whether that talent's working virtually or whether that talent is actually working in some type of, say, social distance office situation, to get that talent to come and scale down, and have some expectations of moving from the lifestyle of Silicon Valley to the lifestyle of Portland, Oregon, or Spokane, Washington. I almost went to Gonzaga, by the way, great school. But you have to sort of do apples to apples for these folks, you know? And so what I'm actually seeing is that, yeah, the head count may not be as high, but the retention part has become way, way more important. Because you lose a key cog right now, and if you're a growth industry right now, and there's a ton of growth industries right now, there's a ton. There's a lot of people that are really thriving, and they're doing well, and they were set up right, you know, from before all this happens, and they're doing good work, you know. And so those kind of clients that are coming through, it's really more about that offering that really good suite of benefits. So I mean, one of my clients, I mean, I don't know if you have Water Avenue Coffee up in Spokane, Washington, but they're a good client of mine. It's a dad and son business. They're great. They offer a really high quality, simple IRA. They jumped on it to all of their clients. Morel Inc. is another client of mine up here that just does some really, really good work. And what they've seen is they've just decided, like, okay, well, we're going to go all in on our people and just make sure everybody's cool and happy, and that it's right. Yeah, we may not be in this like massive hiring phase, but who we have, we need. And so I have architecture firms that are in engineering architecture that are 3 guys. It's 3 guys, but they know they need to keep those 3 guys.
Yeah.
You know, and that's super.
So how, sorry to interrupt.
No.
How much, like, per head, per W-2, does it cost to implement, maybe on average or a range, a retirement program?
And this is I think when you look at what is typically the foundation of most corporate benefits program, which is the health insurance, right? Mm-hmm. And of course, again, we have that mandate through the Affordable Care Act. As a comparison to the cost to the employer for implementing a retirement plan versus the employee benefits, it almost rounds to zero. So for a company to adopt what we would call a deferral only retirement plan, or a deferral only 401k plan, and by that we mean that we want to provide our employees the opportunity to save on a tax advantage basis. It's perhaps not within the budget of the company right now to either match or to do a separate profit sharing into that, but we still not only do we want to, but we now have to, as a result of this new legislation in Oregon Saves. The cost to implement the plan, you're talking about less than $2,000 per year for the company to offer a very, very robust retirement plan that has a whole menu of different investment options that the employee could choose from. So it's not a significant expense. If $2,000 is not within the budget of the organization, that's where, well, maybe we do look at the Oregon Saves program just to meet that requirement that the law now says that we need to have to offer, or we look at perhaps some of the IRA options. But from a company perspective, the expenses are very relatively minimal, particularly when compared to, say, the monthly premiums for health insurance that the employer would need to pay.
What are, if anybody else has questions, feel free to dive in. I'm going to just ask, I see that we're getting close to 10, so we're going to be wrapping up soon. Dan and John, do you have any other slides? Because if not, I would love to acknowledge our sponsors one more time.
Yeah, I'm just going to run through a couple things, and you know, specific to the question of comparative data. One of the things that we can provide any of the members is a industry-specific analysis that will provide some data in terms of what other companies in the pharmaceutical industry are doing as far as retirement plans. How many offer a plan? what kind of plan do you offer? Do you match? Do you not match? So it's about a 100-page analysis that might provide some additional data as you're going through the process of not only considering adopting a plan, but even if you already have a plan, an important aspect of offering a plan is to ensure that your plan is well designed. It's actually the Department of Labor has a whole series of rules that mandate when you offer a retirement plan, you've got to make sure that the investment selections have been well vetted, a variety of other things. So if you already have a plan, we would recommend that you do a very thorough analysis of that program. Now, this is something that our organization usually charges $3,000 to do the full analysis of an existing plan. But as a member of Oregon Bio, this is something that would be complementary to any of the members. So if you have a plan, you want to make sure that you're in compliance, you can reach out to our team. We'll do this comprehensive analysis. I think it's a great process to go through, because at the end of the day, you know, the outcome, having this full analysis, will at least provide documentation that you're doing everything that's expected of you from the Department of Labor regulations as a plan sponsor. So if anybody's interested, as I said, for Oregon Bios, we're waiving the traditional cost for this comprehensive analysis. Part of the analysis, we go through this, the Department of Labor has this checklist that they would go through if they were actually to walk out to your location and want to do a review and audit of your plan to make sure that you are crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's. So we go through this checklist that they would go through, so that if they knock on your door, you know, you're not going to get nervous. So that's part of the analysis. And then really just the last thing, Michelle, that'll remind everybody that anybody that really wants to, you know, further their knowledge around the administration aspect of running a retirement plan at your company, we, again, in partnership with Oregon Bio, are able to offer this actual accreditation. It's called a Certified Plan Sponsor Professional. So particularly if you sit on the HR desk at your organization, or maybe in the finance department, this is a great designation to have that demonstrates that you've gone through some specific training and have knowledge of everything that the Department of Labor mandates as it relates to running a retirement plan. As a member of Oregon Bio, it's an online curriculum. I believe it's got a significant number of continuing education credits that if you're also, say, a SHRM or other HR credentialed person, that this qualifies for HR credits. This certification, we are able to provide free of charge to any Oregon Bio member that wants to go through that. So just reach out to our team and we can get you set up. Again, it's an online curriculum. It's not simply, you know, click through and take the test. I mean, there's really some knowledge that you'll learn here. So, you know, with that, here's our contact information. Our hope is that there's an opportunity for us to provide some ongoing education in some of these different topics on a periodic basis. We can continue to update you on anything that's coming out of Washington or out of the state capitol that, you know, puts additional requirements on you. We'd like to become a resource for all of you members going forward. So hopefully that was a comprehensive overview, Michelle, and we certainly encourage anybody to reach out if they have more specific questions.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm going to thank our sponsors one more time and get everybody back to their day. So if you have questions or would like to reach out to Dan or John, we will definitely have their email addresses on hand. If you're interested in the webinar class, the certification Dan was talking about, feel free to email him directly or contact us and we'll put you guys in connection. We want to thank again CAI, Nikon, Skanska, Summit Development, and VWR for supporting quality programming like this. Thank you so much to Dan and John for your insights. We really appreciate it. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day.